day to day, you know. I'm James.
Angela.
I got a proposition for you. I need you to do that thing you do in that head of yours. I need you to find safe passage for these.
Hi, sorry. I was like looking around and not thinking and then realized my audio's not even on, so uno momento.
It's all good. It takes some time to getting adjusted. It took me a bunch of tries until I got this going.
Yeah, I have like I think I go on 3 or 4 Zoom meetings a week, so that's
Oh, really? So this is like a norm for you now.
yeah, just like with different people and stuff. Not for like interviews, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, to communicate, I enjoy it. It's like as close as I'm gonna get to.
There you go. Yeah, well, yeah. And where are you at currently?
I am currently on my mom's floor in Vancouver, BC.
Looks nice. I like it looks like a personal room, I guess, with the teddy bears and everything.
I'm not gonna lie, my life is a bit of a failure, and I am 34 and I live at home right now.
You know what? I'm in the middle of a move back to Chicago too. So I'm in LA currently, but I'm moving next week. So gonna spend the rest of the year there with family too.
Yeah, I'm taking care of my mom, which is really nice,
Oh, that's
and
great.
teaching her how to cook and all that kind of
Oh,
stuff. Well, she's not gonna listen to me teaching her how to cook. She'll just say, "Can you make something?" And then I'll make it.
listen, you have a Polish background, don't you? Right?
Yes. Yes.
Polish mom?
Yeah, Polish mom. And like so I make her smoothies all the time, but she calls them schmoozies because of her accent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, believe me, I grew up in Poland. I know what's up.
Oh, really? Do you
Yep.
speak Polish?
Uh-huh.
Mówisz
Fluently.
po polsku?
Tak, mówię.
Możemy po polsku, jak chcesz.
O, możemy
robić.
też. Dobry twój polski jest.
Trochę. Ja czasami zapomniem słowa,
No.
albo mówię trochę dziwnie.
Trochę po angielsku, trochę po polsku, right? Half and half.
Yeah.
Full English, that's what I call it.
Like mama nie mówi dużo po angielsku, so I try to like help her with her English, and I also keep trying to ask her how to pronounce certain words. Like I'll remember them, but like how to join them together, and you know, it kind of helps both of us. I don't want to lose the language. I think it's beautiful, and I think it's wonderful to know another language. And I'm also learning or trying to learn Italian and stuff. Have been forever, but
Wow, well, you're all over. That's good. No, the more languages you know, especially these days, the better. You know, and Polish is becoming like more known and more, you know, around the world now. People are visiting there, so it's kind of
people are visiting Poland that are not from Poland.
Yes, can you believe that? It's actually now become like a tourist spot.
No, I actually can't.
I grew up there. So I was born in Chicago, but we moved there as my mom's from Poland and everything. We moved there when I was like 3, and I grew up in a city.
What year was that?
That was like 88.
Yeah.
Because we're from the same age, so I'm turning.
Yeah.
So yeah, in 88, and it was just like no one, you know, back then knew anything of Poland. It was still like a communist days. We're still there till like 1990.
Exactly. I mean, that's why my dad and my mom came to Vancouver, is because of refugee status. My dad was imprisoned because of like civil rights fighting. And this was around 84. Originally, they were going to go to Sweden. That window closed. My mom became pregnant with me, and they decided between, I think it was Toronto or Ontario or Vancouver. But if they went to Ontario, they would only be able to teach me French, and my dad would have more job opportunities. But they both decided that it was more important that me and my brother learn English. That's going to help us in our future better. So I really appreciate their sacrifice with that. It's probably the only sacrifice they've ever made. No, I'm kidding. But
it's a big one though.
What's that?
It's a big one though. So
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, exactly. If that's the only thing, thank you. And 2 months after they arrived, I was born and in Canada. So I'm the first citizen of Canada. Like my brother's from Poland.
Yeah.
What part of Poland are you from?
Białystok.
Białystok. Gdzie to jest?
Northeast Poland.
Okay.
So it's kind of by the Latvia border almost.
Ah.
Yeah, it's like it's East Poland in the north. So
Do you remember? I can't because I should
Mhm.
know this better. But I was living in Jelenia Góra when I was a
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
teenager.
Yep.
How far away is that from you?
That's not that far. Probably like 4 or 5 hours away
Yeah.
in a different
So
direction. But I know people who are from there. So I actually have
yeah,
friends from there. So
I
that's
dropped out of high school when I was about 13, 14 because I was bullied all the time, and it was a bad time. Like I didn't ever fit in, and so I was like, might as well get to know my roots, and I moved in with my cousins, and they had a cow and chickens, and
oh
so we got
yeah.
the eggs
I
and the
had
milk the
chicken
cow.
pets. Okay, I had chicken pets like outside my window on a branch, and they would lay eggs in like in my winter hats and stuff. They were like pets. It's a
Do you
whole
want to
different life.
do you want to hear a horrifying story?
Tell me.
Okay, so my great grandma or something, or my mom's great aunt or something, one of those things. So I was on a farm with my third cousins, blah blah blah. They were evil fuckers. But so I fell in love. There was all these like roosters and chickens and whatever, and I fell
Uh-huh.
in love with this one rooster with a crooked beak.
Oh no.
And I saw him every day and he made me happy. And then one day he wasn't there. And then after dinner, my grandma told me that we ate him.
Oh. Oh. That's
She,
like
t-
awful, you
she
know?
told me that I'm not supposed to get attached to these
Yeah.
animals. It was,
To them it's normal. It's like, oh yeah, the cow's gonna be gone in like a few months, you know, but like you can't
that's
fathom it.
psychological warfare.
Yes, because
That is,
they become your pets. They become kind of like
yes,
when you grow up in those like you know, I had 2 dogs, you had cats, you had all sorts of animals. Like that was the norm. They were like all your pets, you know, growing up
yeah.
because you're allowed. You have a lot more land and everything.
But in their ideas, like during when they were growing up, food wasn't very
Yeah.
prevalent. And I understand, like, to them, it's like, don't get attached to your food. But to me, it's like, I've been so sensitive since I was a child. And like, that just destroyed me. It still does to this day.
Uh,
And I don't agree. We're at least in a different time in our lives that we don't have to do
yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's not that thing for survival. And I think things change in Poland too. It's a lot more modernized and, you know,
Yeah.
it's a lot more. I remember like when you thought of the United States back then when I came to it, it's like a foreign, you know, planet almost. But now things are so like, you know, everything with social media and everything, they're a lot more in the
Are
moment,
they?
you know. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
cool.
totally
I
caught up.
just, I remember it being very, behind in times
Yep.
in terms of like, so my first boyfriend, I didn't know much about the world. I was very naive at like 13, 14.
Hmm.
And I started dating like one of my neighbors, and I didn't realize for probably a couple months that I was dating a skinhead until one day
Uh,
I was in a bar, the Castellanca.
uh-huh.
No, this was the Castellanca was okay. It was a different one. And I looked around and everyone had like combo bats on and like shaved heads and
Yep.
leather jackets.
Polish skinheads, that's a thing. That's totally a thing. It was.
It still blows my mind. Like, oh my God, Hitler tried to kill your kind. What is wrong with you?
I don't get it. It's like a rebellion group. You know, I remember it too growing up there. It was a thing, you know?
An ignorance thing, because
Yeah,
it's like you're rebelling about what? Your existence?
for
Like,
real.
oh, it hurts my soul, and it hurts my soul that that's like my lineage. And it's like, why are you so dumb?
I agree.
And I don't call people dumb lightly. Like, that's
But
just,
that's warranted. That is warranted stuff.
yeah.
Yep.
It
Oh
breaks my
boy.
heart.
It's so funny.
So, have you seen Poland lately in terms of that? Like, is it?
Well, from what I know, because I still have family, uncles, and aunts. I haven't been there in a while myself, but I have aunts and uncles that come between U.S. and Poland. And from what I'm hearing and see, it's gotten cleaned up a lot. People are a lot more like, you know, they're more conscious of things. It's not behind the times like it was before. You don't have these kind of like, you know, racist groups that they used to have. It's a lot more welcoming now, and it's
Good.
a lot more open-minded, because it was closed-minded. It was a closed-minded
Yeah.
country, because it's like, you know, you didn't have that many tourists back then, you know, and you didn't have people from other countries. So it was like basically 99% of Poland was Polish people, you know,
Yeah.
or some Russians maybe that came through, or Germans, but that's about it. You know, now it's a lot more. There's people actually going visiting Krakow and you know, Warsaw's got like
Warszawa,
a lot of, yeah, so it's more international for sure in a lot of ways, and they had to, joining the European Union and all that, they had to get modernized. So it's a whole different country now. Like, you'd be shocked if you went back.
I probably will one day go back. I was working with this guy on the L Word. He's trans, and he was telling me back when he was, I think, still female, and with his girlfriend, they were in Poland and they got chased down, and like they had to hide inside. Like, that breaks my heart.
Yep.
Like,
they just weren't educated. It's simple as that. You know,
I know.
people were just ignorant and uneducated. And I think now with the world opening up in so many ways, I think definitely Poland has changed for a lot of reasons. There's a lot more young youth that kind of grew up there and has a different vision than their parents did. So
yeah, they get to at least experience the internet, which does help get out of that like Catholicism.
It was a bubble, you know, and still
it was a strict bubble.
Yes, you know, it totally, it's changed, and still Poland was still behind communism even after it stopped for a lot of years, you know. So
that's so crazy.
I know. So great. It's so great we have this connection. But look at you. You made it, okay? To be a Polish descent and to appear in television and film. I mean, that's a big deal. You know, I'm sure your family's proud, and your mom and everyone in that lineage. Because in Poland, when you grow up, you don't think about being in movies, or that's not an option, okay? You just get it. You be a doctor, a lawyer, you know, or have like a prestigious career. That's when you made it and stuff. Yeah. I'm curious, what kind of led you to this path, even though obviously you grew up in Vancouver? What interested you about the entertainment industry that got you in it initially? Because you've been doing it since what, 2002? You've been doing it for a while now.
20 years now.
Yeah,
just about in like 2 months, 20 years.
Wow.
So yeah, I look at it. Okay, so I thank my mom all the time and my dad for bringing me to Canada, because I would have never gotten to do what I do now. They didn't know anything about the industry. I actually, because I was so naive, believed that it was this like internal belief that there was only certain humans that were born to be in movies and in music. It's not like I could do it. It's not like humans could do it. There was like no understanding of how that happens. And so I bless my parents. I love them, but they weren't there for guidance. I didn't have a lot of help growing up and knowing what's right or wrong. So TV became my family. TV became my learning lessons of, okay, which also, by the way, kind of gets in the way of life, because you think they're going to be like John Hughes moments when you grow up.
Right, and dating and all that. Yeah. No one's going to come out with a stereo and by your window.
Oh my God. And that's the shit that I grew up on, and Saved by the Bell, and like, and like Buffy and all these things that like
90210, right? Cool.
Oh yeah. Luke Perry, man, I had such a crush on him, and he was the first actor I ever worked with on Jeremiah, and then Jason Priestley was the guest star. And I remember Luke took me over to Jason, and I know he was just trying to make me feel better, but he was like, introduced me to Jason and was like, this is Magda, she's gonna be famous one day. And I was like, oh, thanks guys. Wow. And then he talked to me about school and like acting and stuff. I was such a nerd. Like, I still am such a nerd, but I was so just happy to be there. And at the end of the week, I made him a friendship bracelet with his costume colors.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I gave it to him, and he was like, thank you so much. I probably can't wear it because of costume, but thank you. It was just, he was very sweet to me. And Malcolm Jamal Warner was really nice. Yeah, that was like the first time I got to do stunts, because I had a big shotgun, like a machine shotgun, and they wanted me to like the back of the car, so they were going to put the stunt person. I was like, can I do it? And so then they harnessed me and it attached to the trailer, and I just leaned out shooting the machine gun.
Going for it, why not? You know?
Yeah, and so when I was 10 is probably when my obsession really intensified with movies and TV. And I didn't know that my future was going to be that. All I could do was like dream. It was as close as The Secret, minus the crazy guru who killed people. I don't know if you know about that, but he was crazy. And so I just remember, like, so still to this day, I don't know how that dream really ended up becoming reality.
Yep.
I did do the steps. Like, I would go to the Burnaby Art Center and do theater, and that's where like Michael J. Fox went, and I had a huge obsession with Michael J. Fox.
Oh my
And
God, who
when I
wouldn't?
said
I mean,
I still do. And so Back to the Future, oh my God, best movie ever.
one of the best movies ever. It's my top 5 for sure.
God, seriously, top 5, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I then afterwards, when I came back from Poland, I realized I was there for like 8 months, and I realized I wanted to graduate with people around my age. And so I came back because I wasn't good with like doing the book stuff, the correspondence where you like have it to do with yourself. Doesn't work. And so I was told by my brother's best friend, there's this extra workshop. And I was like, okay, didn't know the difference between extra and acting. So I sat through the whole thing, and I was like, went up to the guy. I was like, how do I say a line? And it's like, I remember he like almost laughed at me and was very patronizing, and like said, oh, like it was almost like, oh, sweetie, like that's not gonna happen. And I was like, no, just tell me how to do it, what steps to do. And that literally was how I got through everything, because he said you need like a headshot. And I was like, oh God, maybe you'll understand this, but like can't remember the name, if it starts with an L or something, but I had my little tiny picture from Poland.
Legitimacja.
Yeah,
Yes.
jak mówię to?
Legitimacja.
Legitimacja.
It's like basically like an ID, you know?
Yeah. And I was like, I thought I could use that picture. It was great. I looked great in it.
Yep.
And he's like, no, you gotta go like to get headshots. And I was like, okay, the only thing it's good. And I was just like, I had no idea. And I then looked up all the agencies, which ones were the biggest, most important. And back then you could walk in, drop off your submissions and stuff. And then like a week later, I'd come back and like see if they got it. And luckily I did that. It was this, there's the top 2 agencies. The first one I felt like was not very nice on the phone, so I wanted to go with the other people. And so I went to their office, and they realized that I looked way different than the picture that I took. Apparently in my picture, I looked way older, and I look like a child. I still look like a child, but at the time I was 15.
Right.
And so the agent lady gave me like sides, which are do you know what sides are? Where they're like lines and stuff, and then a monologue to memorize. And I remember just instinctually I had like that thing, like, okay, so I have a monologue that I have to talk about running away, why I'm running away, I'm upset. I'm like, well, I can't just stand there and say it. So I brought in my knapsack and a bunch of clothes and put them on the chair and folded it while I was doing the monologue. And like, she just loved my instincts. And she told me years later that like I brought my mom because she has to do the signing, but my mom knows like nothing, especially about the industry. Right. And she started talking to my mom, and I was like, oh, no. My mom's here just to sign the papers. You talk to me. Like, not in a mean way, just like in a this is my business, this is my thing. Totally. And I just kept going to classes and workshops and listened as much as I could, watched actors. I've been watching actors on TV since I was a kid. What do I like from my performances? What do I not like? And that kind of stuff. I do not know how I'm still here. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. It's been a hard ass time, and I've gone through a lot of pain through this industry. But it's obviously still worth it because I'm still in it.
Well, yeah, and look at the stuff look at projects you've been in. Green Inferno, working with Eli Roth, who's like a genius when it comes to like horror genre. And then I'm such a huge fan of that show, too, being part of
Yeah.
like a major breakout show. You've done some significant stuff,
Dude, you have no idea how happy I was when I got you. Like
Were you a fan of it? Because you came on later on, right? Yeah.
So basically I watched the first season, and my partner at the time, he was really disturbed by the content, so he would sleep, and I am have insomnia, so I would just like watch episodes till 5 a.m. So over 2 days I binged watched the episodes, and I was just like, oh my god, why can't I be in a show like this? Like I literally in my head was like, I want this. I want to do this. And a few months later, I got an audition for it, and I was like, no.
You gotta get it, right? Like,
and then I got it, and I was like, no. Like I didn't believe when they said that. Like I kept being like, you guys are lying to me, and I'm gonna find out that this is not true, and this is all a farce, and everything's gonna fall apart. But no, it didn't. I ended up starting off with 2 episodes, and then I ended up, I think, getting 6 out of 10 episodes.
Right? Yeah, like about 6 episodes. That's pretty nice run there,
Oh my god, I was so happy.
Half a season's worth. That's awesome. So I remember from that. I remember you in Green Inferno. I mean, I definitely, you're a familiar face to me in a lot of ways too. So
Pilot Spy was also a really favorite one of mine, because I got to play like a quirky girl that
I remember that show. Yep.
Said what's on her mind and was like dying of cancer. And I remember in the beginning kind of finding like, well, how do you tastefully, as a kid, I don't have cancer, so how do I respect people who are going through cancer and deliver these lines where it's not offensive? And so I was really nervous at first, but it was by the end of the day, there was something that happened in one of the scenes, and it just clicked. I was like, oh, I get her. Okay, I get this. And like where the jokes were coming from was fear and pain, but like deflecting and all this stuff. And oh god, it was such a special experience. And yeah, those are the kind of things that I cannot believe I've gotten a chance to do. I've gotten to become friends or work with people I've always dreamed of. And how do I get to have this?
Well, hard work, that's the thing. You didn't get a lot of people in this industry are connected. Like, it's about connections, right? We know that in some of these, who in a lot of instances, you did it from the ground up. That's true. A tough journey. And you know what? It's so much more rewarding at the end because you remember all the steps, all the hardships, all the, now looking back, crazy, embarrassing, funny moments, that it took to get here. And that's why when you book something like you have such an appreciation. You look back at it, like, wow, this is.
There's not 1 second I'm ungrateful for anything I've ever gotten.
And that's what's going to keep you in the industry, because it's like that drive doesn't go away in that way,
Yeah, I don't think like, successful in terms of monetary life might not always be there, but I'd rather be a poor artist for the rest of my life than give it up and get like a normal job. Yeah. People always keep telling me like, isn't there something else you want to do? And I'm like, no, literally everything I love doing is like the hardest thing to make money. Like I love writing poetry. I love writing in general. Those are the 2 biggest other ones. I like crafting. Like what? None of that makes you money.
But that's the thing. That's what an artist is, right? You live by your interests, right? Because if you're doing something for money, a lot of times people do things and they're miserable, just going to work, they're dreading it. But like they always say, like, if you do something you love, you don't feel like you've worked a day in your life. If you can find that in your life, you're going to be happy, I always believe the money eventually will come, in some way you'll be able to support yourself doing what you love, because the passion comes through, and
I also think a big part of it is like my parents didn't really teach me about finances. They didn't teach me about all those kind of important things. And so I've had to make a lot of mistakes growing up on my own.
Yep.
And I've lost so much, like even monetarily, and I could have been way better off, but I grew up poor. So all of a sudden, as a kid, a teenager, early 20s, I have money. I spent it. Like the one good thing I got out of it was I kept money and I got a green card. But like I was, in 24 and I was like, I'm going to buy a motorcycle. And I did, and I had my motorcycle phase, but like, I don't regret any of it because at that time, since I was a kid, I would just say yes to moments because I wanted to experience as much as I could. Now I'm trying really, really hard to learn about budgeting. I know it comes from somewhere deeper within my like anxieties, my issues that I deal with every day, like how people have addictions and stuff. That's where my spending comes from, because if I have a really bad day, I might not have the money, but I'll go to the dollar store and spend like, I don't know how you spend.
It's a way of coping with things and distraction. Totally. Yeah. No, I understand.
So I'm working on that stuff, like, but it's hard.
There's worse vices, at the end of the day, like you still, at least you understand where you're at too. That it's all about growing, understanding yourself. And that's part of growth, knowing your down, the weaknesses, knowing the strengths, knowing what kind of to work on, that's part of human experience. I always feel like to be a performer, you need to go through experience real life. Because people who just like, I'm an actor all around, like that's not real living. You need to live.
And maybe be a little bit of a mess. So I try to make myself feel better because I'm a bit of a mess. I've gotten better. Yeah.
In some ways, everyone is a mess,
But I feel like the actors who never had a life and aren't a mess and are kind of Pollyanna, their performances don't come off as
authentic.
Powerful.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I could see tears in people's eyes, but there's a difference between I could see someone who's actually, it comes with a cost, like a story behind their eyes, versus someone who just knows how to cry.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally. That is so important. And you know what? This movie, the Volition one, that was cool. That was like a mind bender. That movie was just going back in time. I enjoyed it. Tell me what kind of drew you to that, because it's a cool concept. It's sci-fi-ish. You need to pay attention. I got lost a few times along the road, going back and forth. But that was a cool role for you, kind of a badass role too. That's totally fitting from what I, from talking to you. How did you like working on that?
Well, first of all, we're not supposed to talk about time travel. It's supposed to be secret. Even though everyone that I've been interviewed by today was like, "Is it time travel?" I'm like, okay, but because my director and producer, they were like, "Don't mention time travel." But it doesn't matter. I love time travel stuff. Obviously, Continuum.
Back to the Future, right?
Yeah, Back to the Future.
Yep.
I feel like also even Caprica was a version of time travel because we watched Battlestar Galactica, and mine was like a prequel. So it was like, I think 80 years or 50 years before the downfall of civilization. Oh God, sorry. Let me collect my thoughts, because when people ask me questions, my brain goes like, blah! So Volition. First of all, the character, I like that I don't get to play badasses often. Like, I'm always kind of, almost I feel like the ingenue, or it's just like a stereotype of a tough person, like sometimes for TV movies or something. But like this, like I felt like she got to have her secrets, but they were real, and she came from a place, and I felt like Tony like honored that in a way that still, without having to tell what she's gone through, you could obviously tell that there's something that she's running away from, which is really funny, because at that time my life was falling apart and I was kind of running away from stuff, and I had to leave Los Angeles and lose my home and my ex and my cats, and it was a really sad time. And
that's a lot at once,
and I was homeless at the time, and so it was very interesting. And like the last 3 years have been really kind of a challenge, and Volition kind of was the reason I came back to Vancouver. And it's doing the movie became a journey of self-discovery for myself.
Mhm.
And I was saying earlier today, like, the reason I think I really like this movie is that your two leads are two anti-heroes, and instead of like these put together people or one put together person trying to help the messed up person get together, it's like our world is so messed up these days and confusing and full of gray areas, and people not knowing anymore what is right and what's their values, what are their morals, what's just their like safety boxes. And we relate more to the anti-hero nowadays, or like because look at Breaking Bad, like we connect to those people, we connect to Bad Santa, like
Flawed people are totally, flawed people,
yeah.
because you know what? Everyone can relate to flaws. And when you see perfection, you see someone totally too beautiful and all that, like, I can't be that. It makes you feel kind of bad about yourself. But when you see flawed people, you develop sort of a rooting interest in them, right? You develop interest like, well, I can see myself in that. And that's what's relatable. And I feel
and with James, like, I love that instead of looking at his ability as a superpower, like in Marvel or whatever it is, not to like put Marvel down, but like, these heroes are so shiny and pretty, and like I love the fact that, like, hey, how about you be realistic? Like, what if you were clairvoyant and you saw a step ahead? How miserable would your life be? It not only would cause headaches, but it was just like the fun of life would be taken out of it. And like, I stop myself from having fun because I have extreme anxiety and I have panic attacks around people sometimes, and I have to really work on it to let myself be okay and free and stop like thinking of all the worst things. And like,
I grew up with that. I've been dealing with that for years myself. I totally understand.
Yeah.
It's a tough
and so like
struggle.
Literally I see myself in James where it's like it's like, what's the point? Because I constantly am afraid, like, what's the point? I'm not going to be able to have fun. I'm like going to be in my head and shaking all the time and like feeling weird and feeling like I'm saying the wrong thing. And like for him, he's just like, what's the point? Like this like hookup is going to be whatever it's going to be. It's not even going to be that great. But at the same time, it's like, because it's not going to be great, you let it become not great, It's the same thing. I'm scared that something bad's going to happen. I'm going to let something bad happen. I'm putting the energy out. And like
prophecy,
Yeah. And finally, at one point in the movie, like James realizes it's like, it is about making a choice. He's just been passive with his life. And all of a sudden he realizes the problem is himself. Like, he's not changing. He's not doing something about it. Like, hey, we get shitty hands dealt to us, and some people are better off, some people are not. And he finally figures out, okay, I'm going to do something about it and change. And and so that's kind of even where I'm at in my life, where you're just like, I have these, anxiety, social issues, and I could either cripple my life and never do something and never go out again and stop making friends, or I could try to live.
Yep. And keep on, the battle's always there on a daily basis, but you just got to keep on moving forward, and pushing. So that's a tough part. Andrea, I'll talk to you soon then.
Okay.
Thanks
Have a good day.
You too. Bye, Magda.
Bye.
Leave now.
What's happening? You're beginning to fret.
You drilled it into me, my choices.
This is going to be hard to understand. Maybe it's time you learned the truth about your condition.